But we do begin tonight in Columbia, South Carolina, where earlier today I sat down with Senator Darline Graham for her very first TV interview since the passing of her brother, the late, great Senator Lindsey Graham, and her appointment to fill his seat through the end of this term. Now, we covered a wide range of topics, including her future plans in the Palmetto State, after President Trump now encouraging her to run for her brother's open seat in the U.S. Senate. Take a look. Senator Darline Graham, it's an honor to have you sit down with us today. I wish for you and for Lindsey, my friend, under better circumstances. It's hard to believe it's only been a week, and what a whirlwind week you have now lived. How are you holding up?
I'm just taking it day by day. I'm not gonna lie, it's been tough.
Yeah.
Been extremely tough. Lots of prayers, heartfelt messages from friends and family, colleagues. Really got me through this week.
Yeah, and there's still a lot to go.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you don't have one funeral service, you have two.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you describe Lindsey, well, I was very close to, I don't know to the extent you know, but we talk late into the night often about everything. Whether we agreed or disagreed, and we had the best conversations, and he had a wicked sense of humor. But I think we really have to start with, you know, both of you had a life in a lot of ways that was tragic. You lost your mom to cancer. Not long after, you lost your dad.
Mm-hmm.
You're only 13 years old.
Right.
He's 21.
Mm-hmm.
And you describe Lindsey as brother, mother, and father. Explain that.
Well, like you said, we had some tragedies. Our mother passed away. I was 11. It was 3 days before my birthday. So that was extremely tough. And, you know, just over a year later, we lost our father, tragically, suddenly. And so Lindsey had to become everything to me. I can remember when it happened. He took me in his arms, he hugged me, he said, "Don't worry, I'm going to take care of you." And I believed him. I knew that was going to be true, the case, but it was very, very difficult. And here at that point, I'm 13 years old, so he's my father figure. And when I say he's my mother, I'm a young lady transitioning into a young adult, so there's things that, you know, he had to take on that someone his age would never dream of. So he was everything. He was my rock. He was my brother, my mother, and my father.
He was still, in many ways, a kid himself.
Absolutely.
At 21, you're just beginning to find yourself in life. What was he like in that leadership role? Because he did step up.
He did.
What was he like?
He was very strong. I mean, at one point he said, "I'll quit school, I'll come home, I'll run the bar, the liquor store, and we'll live in the house." And I was like, you can't do that. That's not what our parents would have wanted. He was the first in our family to go to college, and we were so proud of him. My mother was so proud of him. So I'm like, that you can't. And so I went to a nearby town to live with an aunt and uncle. But Lindsey came home every weekend, every weekend. He called throughout the week. If I wanted to go to the movies with a friend, I called Lindsey. Lindsey gave me the money to go. So he truly was my parent.
Yeah, I watched an interview with him, and you know, it was his top priority. He said at one point when he had discussed at any point leaving school, he said, for your mom, it was a no-go zone. That was not going to happen.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was beyond proud. I can remember when he would come home from Columbia, he would ride the bus, and she would get so excited. She's like, "Lindsey's coming home." And I would run down the street to the bus stop and greet him. So
Yeah.
those were great days.
It's hard to believe where you were a week ago, because you were just absorbing this day, you know, the magnitude of losing your brother and the surprise of losing your brother. I mean, I actually went through the timeline of it all, and Wow. I mean, I don't know anyone that's ever had that whirlwind of a week. I mean, Saturday night you find out he's sick. Sunday, you know by midnight at least that he had passed on. I knew something was going on. My friend, Senator Tim Scott, called me at 3 in the morning. That's not Tim's usual time to call anybody. And then I looked at my phone and I just like was in a state of shock that he passed on. And then your life changed on a dime.
Yes.
Let's talk about the conversations you talked to on Sunday. This is the night after Lindsey passes away. Governor McMaster, Senator Scott, elected officials, President Trump. You know, everybody calls. I'm sure you weren't expecting the day before.
It was just unbelievable. I mean, it was like I was living a nightmare when I got the unexpected news. I can't even tell you how devastated I was when I got that call. It was so hard. And, but from there, things just started moving so fast. Like you said, I got the call from the president and the governor, Tim Scott. It just thoughtful messages, you know, how much they respected him, true friendship. So, and then the question, you know, would I serve? And I was just shocked. It never occurred to me, you know, that was Lindsey's life, not mine. Nothing I ever wanted to be a politician or a senator. But when they asked, it didn't take me long. I prayed. I talked to my family. And I knew that I had to step up. You know, I had to carry on his legacy.
In other words, you just felt at that moment unexpected calling that you never dreamed of. Is that a fair way to
Yes,
characterize it?
absolutely. Yeah.
So we get to Monday, okay? And, well, let me pause and say, and I know this to be the truth and a fact, is there was nobody in the House or Senate that was closer to President Trump and spent more time with President Trump than your brother.
Correct.
And I know how much that meant to him. And I know how often he talked about it. I assume he talked about a lot of that with you as well.
He did. He did. I knew from Lindsey. Lindsey thought a lot of him. I knew they had developed a friendship.
Yeah.
But the president, you know, confirmed that. He said he was like a family member.
Yeah.
So that really meant a lot to me.
You know, there's a timeline that gets obviously out of your control very quickly.
Yes.
And I've known Governor McMaster a long time, very fond of him. I've known Tim Scott as a dear friend of mine. And then the president puts out Monday. Again, you've had just a little over 24 hours to deal with it a week ago. That, you know, I recommended to Governor Henry McMaster that Lindsey Graham's wonderful sister, Darline, you know, to serve as interim senator of the great state of South Carolina. This would be a fabulous tribute to Lindsey, who loved her dearly. Talk about when you first heard that idea and what was your initial reaction. And you have a daughter that's a senior in high school,
Yeah,
right?
she's 17.
Yeah.
It was shock because it had never entered my mind that I would be asked that question. So it took me a minute to process it. But like I said, it didn't take me long to realize that, you know, I felt just this inner calling. It has to be God's plan. It has to be God's plan that I had to carry on his legacy. And, you know, I know how much the people of South Carolina meant to him, serving our country meant to him. And I've been serving the people of South Carolina for almost 30 years in my position.
Now, if you move and fast forward, it's Tuesday.
Yeah.
You're with Henry McMaster, and he makes the announcement. And now you have to speak before the nation. Again, not a lot of time to really absorb what's happening. This timeline's moving quickly. It's just, unfortunately, you know, I think for anybody in that situation, it is the timeline. It is what it is. You're talking to a governor that is asking you to do it. You're talking to a president of our country that's asking you to do it. You have to make a decision, and you know, then the next thing you know, you're being sworn into the United States Senate.
Yeah.
And now you're a United States Senator. That is a fast timeline.
A very fast timeline.
How was that moment? Because I watched you and I was actually stunned at the poise and grace and, you know, by which you were sworn in, and then you spoke about your brother, and with the passion that came out behind it, you could feel it. Was that a tough moment for you?
It was tough. It was very tough. But, you know, I prayed about it. I had support from my family. And like I said earlier, I had an inner peace about it. And it's just something I knew I had to do. I had to carry on Lindsey's legacy.
Yeah.
I had to do it for him.
You know, I actually went back and I found an old interview that your brother did on C-SPAN. And it was in 2015 when he was, you know, running for president. This is what he said: of all the things that's happened in my life, Darline, my sister, turning out so well is the highest of it by far. And then he went on to say that if he were to win, what role would she play in the White House? I don't know if you're aware that he was asked that question.
I don't recall
And he
that.
said, she would be a support for me. After he'd been such a support for you. 13 is so young to lose both your parents. And at the end of the day, whatever I asked her to do, she would do. That sounds like Lindsey to me. If she took on, you know, a role on, she'd be a great representative of our country. I cannot think of a better person to represent our country than my sister. Pretty powerful and almost a little bit maybe forecasting or maybe instinctively knowing that, knowing something about you or seeing something in you and understanding something about you that he wanted to share with the country had he gotten to that position.
You know, I don't know, Sean. I just know that I have to trust that God has a plan. You know, I never wanted this. This was my brother's life. He worked so hard for the people of South Carolina and our country. And I was so proud of him. But, you know, if God has put me in this position, I will do it. I will take on the challenge. You know, Lindsey was always there for me, and I feel like now I need to step up and be there for him.
So, to continue with your whirlwind week, you're a senator on Tuesday. On Thursday, you're in the Oval Office.
Yes.
I may be guessing that your brother took you to the Oval Office before.
I'd been there one time, a pinning ceremony.
Well, now the president's asking you into the Oval, inviting you into the Oval Office. My understanding is you're met by the president, the vice president, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East, Stephen Witkoff, and by Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles.
Correct.
I would say that's a who's who in Washington. Bring us into that meeting.
I think it went very well. You know, the president was very sincere in his condolences about Lindsey. He talked about him and what a good friend he was, how he considered him family. And, you know, I told him how much I appreciated all that he had done and, you know, how they'd worked together. And then I went on to mention that there were some things that I felt like were very important to Lindsey, Russia's sanctions, and that I really wanted to push those across the finish line.
So you really share the same values as your brother. You followed his career very closely. And I met your wonderful husband, and we have a shared passion for Waffle House. I can't come to South Carolina and not go to Waffle House.
He loves Waffle House.
And we talk more about Waffle House than anything else. And now, if that week wasn't, I guess, whirlwind enough, by, I guess it was Thursday or Friday, or, you know, the president puts out, it was my honor to welcome Senator Darline Graham, the sister of the late, great Lindsey Graham, from the wonderful state of South Carolina, into the Oval Office. We have known each other for a long time. She's a spectacular person. and a true American patriot. Lindsey was one of the greatest people, senators I've ever known, and his sister shares his deep love of our country and the state of South Carolina. And during her visit, I asked Darline, for the good of our nation, to run for the U.S. Senate in the special Republican primary, which will take place not far away, August 11th. I mean, his funeral's the 28th of July.
I know.
2026. Quote, I hope, by the way, no pressure from President Trump. I hope Darline does this, and that there would be nobody better to honor the legacy of her beloved brother, Lindsey. And Darline, who comes from an absolutely incredible family, has been a winner her whole life. Should she accept, she will have my complete, total endorsement in the special election for the U.S. Senate in South Carolina. She will never let you down. Run, Darline, run. Were you expecting that?
No, I was not expecting that, yeah.
Okay, so now now you're faced with, I don't know, I mean, it's kind of hard. People don't know Donald Trump as well as I do. I've known him 30 years. And when he asks for something, it's hard to say no to a president.
Oh, yes.
Have you thought about that aspect of this?
I've given it a lot of thought. I've prayed on it, talked to my family, Lindsey's staff. He has a wonderful, hardworking staff. And so, yes.
They're all staying with you?
They're all staying with me. They're all supporting me and behind me, which is, that means so much to me. Such an honor. Lindsey loved them. They're like family, so absolutely.
So, you know, the good news is you have a huge infrastructure for constituent services already built in that you're inheriting from your brother.
Correct.
So that's got to give you some peace.
It does. It does. It reassures me that, you know, I feel like I can do this. And the meeting with the president, it was such an honor. It was comfortable. And, you know, I told him two things. I said, I can tell you this about me. I will work hard and I'm loyal. So.
I bet he liked the second part better.
Yeah. Maybe, yeah.
What's interesting, and I think part of it's a good thing. I think part of it in your circumstances makes it triply harder in that I like the idea, if God forbid a state loses a senator, they deserve representation.
Absolutely.
And now they have it in you with Lindsey's full staff in place. That's good news for the people,
Yes,
the great
yes.
people of South Carolina.
I am so fortunate to have his staff. I mean, they're bringing me up to speed. They're right by my side working hard while grieving. It's been hard on them, so I can't tell you how much I appreciate them.
The president again saying, I hope Darline does this. Meaning, I hope you will get, and here's the filing deadline for people that don't know, and these are just the laws of South Carolina. The filing begins tomorrow. I think you have a week.
Yes.
And by that time, the funerals won't even have taken place.
I know.
And then the president's putting an ask on you, we'll put it that way. It's a lot of pressure.
It is a tremendous amount of pressure.
Tell me what's going through your head about it, and where do you stand now?
I'll continue to say I've been praying a lot, talking to my family, but with the love of my family, with the support of his staff. I know I'm a hard worker. I learned that from Lindsey. He cared about the people of this state. I've worked for almost 30 years for the people of this state.
I want to talk about that in a minute.
I feel like I can do it. I feel an inner peace about it. Will it be difficult? Yes, absolutely.
So you're inclined to get in, or have you even made a final decision?
I've made a decision.
You're in.
I'm in. I'm in. I can't see it any other way. I just can't. I've thought and I've prayed, and he's worked so hard for so long. I can't just let that die. I've got to step in and carry on his legacy. I know he cared about the people of South Carolina so deeply. He worked so hard for them. And I feel like I can do that too. He taught me well. I learned a lot from Lindsey. And
You
I
were
think
involved in every campaign.
every campaign, yes.
And thank God you were, because if it wasn't, your ads were much better than his ads. You know, as you would talk about him, and from one the time you were 13.
The personal side, he had a hard time sharing that.
So you'll have to go through this period where you're going to be very busy. I'm sure funeral
Time frame
arrangements.
is brutal, brutal.
And coming up, more of my exclusive interview with Senator Darline Graham, including a discussion on how Senator Darline Graham will govern maybe a little differently than her brother. Also, all right, thanks for watching. Check out my new podcast, Hanging Out with me, Sean Hannity. The big interviews, the debates you won't get anywhere else. Like and subscribe for new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday.